The drill bit screamed as it cut through ancient rock. Lieutenant Theodora Brennan stood in the observation bubble watching the red dust billow and swirl in the thin Martian atmosphere. She was 28 years old, Air Force pilot, 3 tours on the Mars orbital station, hands steady enough to dock a shuttle in a solar storm. She'd been assigned to escort duty because Dr. Elias Moravec had insisted on absolute military security. No civilian contractors, no corporate observers, just 6 military personnel and the old archaeologist who'd spent 40 years studying satellite imagery of Mars, convinced that something waited beneath the canyons. The comm crackled. "Lieutenant Brennan, you need to see this." Teddy, everyone called her Teddy, pushed off and floated through the connector tube to the drill site. The tunnel stretched down into darkness, lights strung along the walls like luminescent pearls descending into the throat of something vast and sleeping. "Doctor!" Moravec waited at the bottom. 70 years old, grey beard coated with red dust, eyes that hadn't slept in 3 days, burning with something that looked like fever, but was actually vindication. "We found it," he said simply. The chamber beyond defied description. It stretched for kilometers in every direction. The walls weren't rock. They were metal or something like metal, black and smooth and covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Geometric designs that seemed to shift when you weren't watching. Mathematical proofs written in a language that predated human civilization by millions of years. And in the center, rising like a monument to forgotten gods, stood the archive. Teddy had seen ancient human ruins, Egyptian temples, Mayan pyramids, Roman aqueducts. This made them look like children's toys. The archive was a perfect sphere 30 meters across, hovering a meter above the chamber floor with no visible support. Its surface rippled like liquid mercury, reflecting nothing, absorbing light like a hole in reality. "Don't touch it," Moravec warned, but his hand was already reaching out. The moment his fingers made contact, the sphere responded. Light erupted from its surface, not the harsh white of human technology, but something else. Colors that had no names, frequencies that shouldn't exist. The air itself seemed to crack and splinter, reality fracturing around the archive like glass under pressure. And then the knowledge came. It poured into their minds like water through broken levees. Schematics, blueprints, mathematical formulae that would take human scientists centuries to fully understand. Technology so advanced that even seeing the designs felt like staring at the sun. Faster than light propulsion that bent space-time like paper. Energy shields that didn't block attacks but phased them into parallel dimensions. Weapons that could manipulate gravity, crack tectonic plates, destabilize stars. Stealth systems that made matter invisible to every form of detection. Quantum computers that could hack any system simply by existing near it. The precursors. Whatever they'd been had mastered physics in ways humanity hadn't even begun to imagine, and they'd been dead for 3 million years. Moravec collapsed. Teddy caught him before he hit the ground. His skin was burning. Radiation, she realized with sudden horror. The archive wasn't just a database. It was active, broadcasting, and the energy it emitted was exotic matter particles that didn't exist naturally in this universe. His body was cooking from the inside out. "Get medical down here," Teddy shouted into her comm, but Moravec's hand caught her wrist. "No," he gasped. Blood trickled from his nose. His eyes were unfocused, seeing something beyond the chamber walls. "Listen to me, Teddy. Listen carefully." She knelt beside him, cradling his head. "If Earth Command finds out about this," Moravec whispered each word costing him, "they'll weaponize it. Immediately. Publicly. They'll parade it in front of the world. And when the galaxy notices, and they will notice, they'll see a primitive species with technology they shouldn't have. They'll see a threat. We can protect it. Keep it secret until... Until what? Until we're ready." Moravec coughed, spattering her suit with crimson. "There are civilizations out there that have been spacefaring for tens of thousands of years. They have intelligence networks, spy satellites, Observation posts, the moment we start testing precursor technology openly, they'll know. Teddy's mind raced. She'd read the briefings. Earth had been receiving strange signals for decades, radio telescopes picking up patterns that couldn't be natural. But official contact, that was still theoretical, still decades away. Wasn't it? They're already watching us, Moravec said, reading her face. They've been watching since we split the atom, since we went nuclear. That's when primitive species become interesting. That's when they start paying attention. His breathing was labored now, shallow. The radiation had cooked his lungs. Promise me something, Teddy. His hand tightened on her wrist with surprising strength. Promise me you'll build in secret everything for as long as it takes. Show them exactly what they expect to see: primitive rockets, slow progress, chemical propulsion. Let them think they know everything about us. How long? Decades, centuries if necessary. He smiled, blood on his teeth. You're young, smart, Air Force grooming you for command. You'll make Admiral by 40. And this? He gestured weakly at the archive. This technology includes medical applications, cellular regeneration, anti-aging therapies. You'll have time, Teddy, more time than you can imagine. You want me to lie to the entire galaxy. I want you to survive long enough to matter. His eyes locked onto hers, suddenly clear, burning with intensity. When they come, and they will come, they'll assess us, judge us, decide if we're worthy of joining them or if we are a threat to be eliminated. If we show them everything we have, they'll either conquer us or destroy us. But if we hide it, we control the revelation. We choose when to show our hand. We make them underestimate us completely. Moravec's voice was fading, each word softer than the last. And when they finally attack, because they will attack Teddy, predators always attack what they think is weak, we'll show them what 2 centuries of secret preparation looks like. The medical team arrived, rushing into the chamber with emergency gear. But Teddy could see in Moravec's eyes that it was already too late. Promise me, he whispered. Promise me you'll be patient. Promise me you'll build a force so strong that no one in the galaxy can threaten us. And promise me you'll use that strength to protect, not conquer. Because that's the difference, Teddy. That's what separates civilization from barbarism. Power with restraint. Theodora Brennan, 28 years old, looked down at the dying archaeologist who'd just handed her the keys to technologies that could reshape human destiny. She thought about lies that spanned centuries, about patience measured in generations, about building weapons in darkness while smiling in the light. She thought about what it would cost, the sacrifices required, the people who would die maintaining the deception. And she made a choice that would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come. 230 years, she said quietly. They'll never see us coming. Moravec smiled one last time. Then he closed his eyes and stopped breathing. Teddy stood looking at the archive, feeling its alien warmth on her skin. The knowledge it contained could change everything, could make humanity a power that rivaled the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. But only if they were smart, only if they were patient, only if they could lie convincingly for longer than most civilizations existed. She activated her comm. This is Lieutenant Brennan. Seal this site. Classification level Omega Black. No records, no reports. This operation never happened. A pause. Then, acknowledged. What about the team? Teddy looked at the 5 other military personnel in the chamber. They'd all seen the archive. They all knew what it meant. They're with me, she said. All of them, for as long as this takes. Montage, the long game. Years became decades. Decades became centuries. In 2060, Captain Theodora Brennan stood before a closed session of the Joint Chiefs and explained why Earth's space program needed to be split into 2 parallel tracks. One public, one secret, one that would broadcast humanity's slow, steady progress to anyone watching. One that would build an armada in the shadows. They called it Project Veil. Public shipyards sprang up in Earth orbit, broadcast loudly, easily observed by any civilization with basic telescopes. The ships they built used chemical propulsion, kinetic weapons, Primitive fusion reactors. Exactly what you'd expect from a species that had only just reached its own moon a century earlier. But beneath Mars in caverns, expanded and reinforced with precursor technology, the real construction began. Teddy oversaw it all. She'd made Admiral by 36, 4 years ahead of Moravec's prediction. And she'd immediately requested assignment to Mars Colonial Development, a boring bureaucratic posting that no ambitious officer wanted. Perfect cover. The first real warship, ADS Retribution, came off the hidden assembly line in 2089. It didn't look like the public vessels. Its hull was midnight black, coated with metamaterials that bent sensor waves around it like water around stone. Its engines manipulated gravity itself, pulling the ship forward by warping space-time. Its weapons could generate localized singularities, crush enemy vessels with artificial gravity, or simply phase shift matter out of normal space entirely. It was beautiful, terrible, a sword forged in darkness, and it was the first of thousands. By 2100, Teddy was 74 years old. She looked 58. Precursor anti-aging therapy, cellular regeneration that reset her biological clock every year, keeping her at peak physical and mental condition. She would age slowly if at all. She would have time to see this through. She would need it. The asteroid belt became a constellation of hidden shipyards, hollow asteroids, their interiors carved out and converted into massive construction facilities. From the outside, they looked like any other rock tumbling through space. From the inside, they were cathedrals of industry, churning out warships at a rate that would have terrified anyone watching. But no one was watching. Not closely. Not yet. The Oort cloud, that vast sphere of ice and rock at the edge of the solar system, became humanity's furthest frontier. It took years to reach even with precursor propulsion. But out there beyond the observation range of anyone passing through the system, humanity built bases that would make ancient military installations look like mud huts. Fortress stations, weapons platforms, fleet staging areas, and helios. 7 platforms, each 30 kilometers long, each capable of manipulating stellar physics in ways that made nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. They could destabilize stars, trigger supernovas, crack planets like eggs. Theodora Brennan stood on the observation deck of Helios Prime in 2198, watching its systems come online for the first time. She was 174 years old, still looked 58, and she felt the weight of every single year. "We built weapons of genocide," she said quietly to her chief engineer. "God help us. Admiral, if anyone attacks us, then we'll defend ourselves with overwhelming force. But these..." She gestured at the view screen at the enormous weapon stretching into the darkness of deep space. "These exist to prove we could, to make absolutely certain that no one doubts our capability. But the moment we use one, we become monsters. We become the thing we're preparing to fight against." She turned away from the window. "Mark my words, these platforms will never fire in anger. They're deterrents, promises, proof that we have the power but choose not to wield it. That's the only way this works." The engineer nodded slowly. "You're building a sword we'll never draw. I'm building 7 swords we'll never draw. Because the strongest weapon isn't the one you use. It's the one you hold at your enemy's throat and then walk away from." By 2250, Earth's secret fleet numbered 1,800 ships. By 2280, 3,472. And still, to anyone watching from the outside, humanity looked like a peaceful species bumbling its way into space with outdated technology and naive optimism. Chemical rockets, kinetic projectiles, fusion drives that would have been impressive 3,000 years ago but were laughably primitive by galactic standards. The deception held. It held because Teddy Brennan ran it with absolute ruthlessness. Intelligence officers who got too curious disappeared. Corporate executives who asked too many questions found their companies bankrupt. Politicians who threatened to reveal the program for political gain suffered convenient scandals. 43 people died over 80 years maintaining the lie. Teddy remembered every name, every face, every family that would never know why their loved one had vanished. She carried them like stones in her chest. But she kept her promise. In 2274, Teddy's granddaughter was born. Cassiel Brennan, military family, grew up on Mars, surrounded by the secret that defined their bloodline. She was 10 years old when she asked her great-grandmother why she looked younger than Cassiel's own mother. "Because I made a promise to a dying man," Teddy said, "and keeping that promise takes a very long time." "What kind of promise?" Teddy knelt down, looking the girl in the eyes. "That humanity would never be defenseless again, that we'd be strong enough to protect ourselves, and that we'd use that strength wisely." "Do you understand the difference?" Cassiel thought about it. "Being strong isn't the same as being mean." "Exactly." Teddy smiled. "Remember that. Always." 16 years later, Commander Cassiel Brennan would volunteer for the most dangerous mission in human history. She would command one of 12 ships that everyone, including their own crews, believed were humanity's only defense. She would fly into battle knowing it was a suicide mission, and she would do it to keep her great-grandmother's promise. The signal came on a Tuesday. It arrived simultaneously at every deep space listening post humanity maintained. Not a radio transmission, not electromagnetic radiation, something else, quantum entanglement. Instantaneous, across any distance, a method of communication that shouldn't be possible according to human physics, but it was very possible according to precursor physics. And the message was simple: "We know you're there. It's time to talk." The Galactic Council, 47 member civilizations, some thousands of years old, some tens of thousands, species that had been traveling between stars when humans were still painting on cave walls. They'd been watching Earth since 1945, since Trinity, since the first atomic bomb split the sky and announced to anyone listening that another species had just discovered nuclear physics. That's when primitive civilizations became interesting. That's when they earned an invitation. The Council's terms were straightforward. Send a diplomatic delegation, present Earth's case for membership, demonstrate your technology, prove you're worthy of joining civilized galactic society. Simple, professional, cordial. But Theodora Brennan, 230 years old and looking 58, sat in the Pacific Command bunker 3 kilometers beneath the ocean floor and read the intelligence reports with growing certainty that the Council's invitation was anything but cordial. "They're testing us," she said to her assembled staff. "They want to see what we have, how strong we are, whether we're a threat or just another primitive species they can absorb." "Recommendation, Admiral." Teddy smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who'd spent 2 centuries preparing for exactly this moment. "We give them exactly what they expect to see." 3 months later, the Galactic Council chamber. The chamber was enormous, nearly a kilometer in every direction. Its walls were crystalline material that shifted colors based on the dominant emotion in the room. Right now, those walls flickered purple and orange, the colors of amusement and contempt. Ambassador Liana Frost stood in the center of the chamber surrounded by aliens. To her left floated the Vorthi delegation. Beings of living crystal, their bodies refracting light into cascading rainbows. Beautiful, ancient, 8,000 years of continuous civilization. They'd been building starships when Earth was in its Bronze Age. To her right squatted the Klesh Overmind. Not one being, but thousands. An interconnected swarm of insectoid creatures that moved as one spoke with 1,000 voices in perfect unison and possessed a collective intelligence that could calculate hyperspace trajectories in real time. Behind Liana loomed the Delium representatives, 4 armed giants, grey skin scarred from centuries of warfare, each one powerful enough to tear through steel with their bare hands. The Delium Empire, 5,000 years of conquest, 10,000 warships, masters of military doctrine that had crushed 300 civilizations. They were not impressed with Earth. High Counselor Vextar of the Vorthi spoke first, his crystalline form resonating with barely concealed mockery. Let us be clear, Ambassador Frost. Earth requests full membership in this council. That is correct, Counselor. Earth, a species that has barely left its own star system. Earth, whose fastest vessels require years to reach even their nearest stellar neighbors. Earth, whose weapons still rely on chemical reactions and metal projectiles. Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Klesh swarm chittered in amusement, their 1,000 voices, creating an unsettling harmony. Even the normally stoic Delium allowed themselves rumbling chuckles that sounded like distant thunder. The walls flashed orange. Derision. Lyanna Frost kept her face neutral, hands clasped behind her back. She'd been briefed extensively by Admiral Brennan. She knew her role. Play weak, play naive, let them laugh. Humanity has met all the requirements for council membership, she said calmly. We have established peaceful contact with 3 existing council species. We have demonstrated faster than light capability. We have submitted our technological and cultural databases for review. And your defense fleet? Admiral Krell of the Delium Empire stepped forward. Massive arms crossed over his chest. Each arm was as thick as Lyanna's torso. Those 12 ships docked at the outer ring. Yes, Admiral, our defensive fleet. We counted them human, 12 vessels, each smaller than our supply transports. His voice was granite grinding against granite. My empire alone commands 10,000 warships. The Vorthi maintain 8,000. Even the youngest council race fields 3,000 vessels, and you arrive with 12. He shook his great head, the scars on his skull catching the light. This is an insult. You waste our time. The chamber walls pulsed red. Agreement. Lyanna allowed herself a small, carefully controlled smile. In her ear, hidden beneath her hair, a microscopic communicator carried Admiral Brennan's voice from 3 light years away. Perfect, Brennan whispered. They're completely convinced. Those 12 ships, Lyanna said aloud, represent Earth's commitment to peaceful dialogue. We brought our diplomatic fleet, not our full military capability. The laughter that followed was like breaking glass. Vexter's crystalline body rang with amusement. Human, do not embarrass yourself further with obvious lies. Our intelligence network is thorough. We have monitored your system for 50 of your years. We have watched every satellite launch, every test flight, every construction yard. We know the full extent of your capabilities. He leaned forward, light fracturing through his body. Those 12 ships are not a diplomatic gesture. They are everything you have. Lyanna felt Admiral Brennan's satisfaction through the comm. This was the moment they'd prepared for. The moment when the council's arrogance would seal its own fate. You're certain of that? Lyanna asked quietly. Absolutely certain. The Klesh overmind responded, its 1,000 voices synchronized perfectly. We have analyzed your vessels, chemical rockets for maneuvering, kinetic projectiles for weapons, energy shields that could barely stop a micrometeorite. Your most advanced ship is equivalent to what the council was building 3,000 years ago. You're primitives, Vexithar added, playing at spacefaring. You have nothing we haven't already catalogued and dismissed. In Lyanna's ear, Admiral Brennan's voice, hook, line and sinker. They bought it completely. Nevertheless, Lyanna said, bowing her head slightly, we formally request consideration for council membership. Request denied. Admiral Krell's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. The council has no interest in babysitting a race that can barely defend its own world. However, the Delium Empire is not without mercy. We offer Earth protectorate status. Hell began counting on his 4 hands. You will place your system under our military authority. You will pay tribute of 40% of your raw materials and trade goods annually. You will disarm your primitive fleet and allow Delium forces to establish bases on your worlds. In exchange, we will ensure no harm comes to you. And if we refuse? Lyanna asked. Krell's laugh was like an avalanche. Then you will learn why the Delium Empire has endured for 5,000 years, while countless upstart races have been reduced to footnotes in history. Economic sanctions at minimum, blockade of your system if you prove stubborn, military action if you prove foolish. The walls flashed red again, deeper, more certain. Every council member, all 47 civilizations, nodded their approval or whatever passed for nodding in their varied anatomies. This was a standard procedure. This was how the galaxy worked. The strong dominated the weak. The old exploited the young. The established powers kept the new arrivals under their collective boot. This was order. This was civilization. This was exactly what Theodora Brennan had predicted 2 centuries ago. Liana appeared to consider the offer for a long moment. The silence stretched until it became uncomfortable. Several council members shifted. Vexter's colors flickered toward blue unease. Finally, Liana bowed her head. Earth accepts protectorate status, she said quietly. We recognize that we have much to learn from the established powers of the galaxy. We are grateful for the Council's wisdom and the Delium Empire's generous offer. The walls flashed gold. Satisfaction. A wise decision. Vexter said, his crystalline body chiming with pleasure. Perhaps your species shows more intelligence than we credited. You may return to your ships and convey our terms to your government. We expect formal compliance within 72 of your hours. Liana turned to leave, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. She had almost reached the exit portal when she paused and looked back. One question, if I may. Krell waved a dismissive hand. Speak. Has the Council considered that they may have been mistaken in their assessment of humanity? The question hung in the air for 3 heartbeats. Then, the laughter began again, louder this time. The Klesh swarm's chittering grew into a roar. The worthy crystals chimed like breaking glass. The Delium delegation slapped their thighs with all 4 arms. Mistaken, Vexter managed between chimes of laughter. Human, we have sensors that can detect a child's toy from 1,000 light years away. We have intelligence networks that have toppled empires. We have been watching your species since you first split the atom. There is no mistake, you are primitives with delusions of grandeur. Liana nodded slowly. I see. Then you are absolutely certain that those 12 ships represent the full extent of Earth's military capability. Absolutely, Krell stated. We have watched your every move for half a century. We know every ship you have built, every weapon you have tested, every soldier you have trained. You cannot hide from the Council's gaze. Thank you for clarifying that, Liana said. It's good to know exactly where we stand. She turned again to leave, but Krell called out, You seem remarkably calm for someone whose world has just been subjugated human. Liana glanced back one final time. Her smile was different now, colder, sharper, touched with something the Council delegates couldn't quite identify. In hindsight, they would recognize it as pity. You've only seen what we wanted you to see, she said quietly. Then she walked through the portal and was gone. The chamber erupted in laughter again, but there was an edge of uncertainty to it now. Vexter's colors flickered briefly toward blue before settling back to gold. Primitive bluster, he announced to the assembly. Pay it no mind. But deep in the Council station's docking ring, Ambassador Liana Frost boarded her shuttle and activated her encrypted communicator. Quantum entanglement, instantaneous across 3 light years. A communication method the Council didn't know existed. Admiral Brennan, she transmitted, they've bought it completely. They think those 12 ships are everything we have. They're certain they've been watching us for 50 years. They know nothing about the Mars facilities, the asteroid belt shipyards, or the Oort cloud bases. The deception is complete. The response came instantly from Earth. From a bunker 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean. From a woman who had waited 2 centuries for this moment. Understood. Return home, Ambassador. And watch the news feeds. The Delium won't be able to resist making an example of us. When they do, we'll be ready to show them what humanity really looks like when we stop pretending to be harmless. Liana allowed herself a genuine smile as her shuttle undocked and began its journey home. Behind her, the council continued their session, already forgetting about the primitive humans who had just accepted their place as subjects. They would remember soon enough. 72 hours later, Titan Station, Commander Cassiel Brennan floated in the observation dome of her quarters, watching Saturn's rings catch the distant sunlight. Titan Station orbited the moon, home to 3,200 miners and their families. Methane processing, hydrocarbon extraction, boring unglamorous work that kept the inner systems industries running. It was also home to her daughter. Emma was 8 years old, bright, curious, always asking questions that Cassiel struggled to answer. Questions like, "Mom, why do we have to live so far from Earth? And why does great-great-grandma Teddy look younger than you?" Cassiel had answers to the second question. She just couldn't share them. Her husband James worked in the processing sector. Chemical engineer, good man, patient, kind. The kind of father who spent hours building model spaceships, with Emma explaining how fusion drives worked, pointing out the constellations visible from Saturn's orbit. Cassiel's comm chimed, incoming message, high priority encryption. She activated it then and Admiral Theodora Brennan's face appeared on the screen. 230 years old, looking 58, still sharp as broken glass. "Commander," Brennan said, "I need you to listen very carefully." "Yes, Admiral. In approximately 6 hours, a Delium fleet will arrive at Titan Station. They will demand immediate surrender and evacuation. When the station refuses, and it will refuse because I've already given the orders, they will open fire." Cassiel felt her blood turn to ice. "My daughter is being evacuated now. All families. Emergency protocols I authorized 3 days ago. She'll be on a transport heading in system within the hour. She'll be safe." And James, Brennan's face softened slightly. Just slightly. "All adult civilians have been given the option to evacuate. Those who stay are volunteering. Your husband knows what's coming. He chose to stay." "Why?" Cassiel's voice cracked. "Why would he?" "Because the Delium need to believe we're weak. Because they need to believe they can bully us into submission. Because 3,200 people need to die today so that 8 billion can live tomorrow." Brennan leaned forward. "I'm sorry, Cassiel. I'm so sorry. But this is the cost. This is what it takes. You're using them as bait. I'm using them as martyrs. There's a difference. And I'm asking you to be one too. You and your crews. The 12 ships. You know what they really are. You know what's hidden beneath the outer hull plating." Cassiel knew. She'd trained for this. Every member of the diplomatic fleet had trained for this. They'd volunteered knowing full well what their mission entailed. Fly into battle. Make it look desperate. Make it look like humanity's last stand. And die convincingly enough that the Delium and the entire council believed Earth was finished. "How many of us are coming back?" Cassiel asked quietly. "Honestly, I don't know. The plan is for at least one ship to survive long enough to jump to FTL. But Cassiel, all of you need to fight like you're not expecting to come back. It has to look real." "It will be real. Those are real Delium warships, real weapons. People will really die." "Yes." Brennan's voice was iron. "They will, and I'll carry every single name for the rest of my life. But that's the price of the promise I made. That's what it takes to keep humanity free." Cassiel closed her eyes, thought about Emma, about James, about the future they'd planned together, about the future she was about to die to protect. "When do we launch?" 5 hours. Get some rest, Commander. And Cassiel, your daughter will grow up knowing her mother was a hero. I'll make sure of that." The comm went dark. Cassiel floated in silence, watching Saturn's rings, thinking about promises made to dying men and the price of keeping them. 2 centuries of preparation, 3,200 lives about to be sacrificed. 12 ships pretending to be humanity's only defense. And somewhere in the darkness, hidden in caverns beneath Mars, in hollowed asteroids, throughout the belt, in fortress stations, at the edge of the Oort cloud, 3,472 warships waited, ready to reveal what 2 centuries of patient deception had built, ready to show the galaxy what humanity looked like when it stopped pretending to be harmless. Cassiel pulled up a photo of Emma, saved it to her personal drive. Then she headed to the hangar to board her ship, Edessa Retribution, one of 12 decoys, built to look primitive, built to fool sensors, built to die convincingly. But beneath the outer plating in the hidden core that even the crew barely understood, something else waited. Something the Delium had no idea existed. Theodora Brennan's final gift to her granddaughter. A chance. Slim, desperate, but a chance. Cassiel strapped into her command chair and activated the ship's systems. Around her, 215 other volunteers did the same across 12 vessels. They'd all said goodbye to their families. They'd all volunteered knowing the odds. They were humanity's sacrifice, humanity's martyrs, and they would make the Delium pay in blood for every second of their arrogance. The countdown began. 5 hours until the Delium arrived. 5 hours until the lie became truth. 5 hours until the galaxy learned that Earth had been preparing for this moment since before most of their crew members were born. Cassiel looked at Emma's photo one last time. Then, she deleted it. Where she was going, she couldn't afford distractions. All ships, she transmitted. This is Commander Brennan. In 5 hours, we show them what humanity really is. Not the peaceful species they think we are. Not the primitives they've dismissed, but the ones who've been lying to them for 2 centuries. We're going to do this today, but we're going to lose so badly, so desperately, so convincingly that they'll never doubt they've won. And then when they're most certain of their victory, my great-grandmother is going to show them what we built while they were laughing at us. It's been an honor serving with you all. The responses came back one by one, calm, professional, ready. They were all going to die. But they were going to die in a way that saved everyone else. Cassiel activated the final countdown sequence and waited for the Delium to arrive. On the bridge of inevitable justice 3 light years away, Fleet Commander Thane watched the countdown clock and smiled. In 6 hours, the humans would learn their place. He had no idea he was walking into a trap 2 centuries in the making. 6 hours passed in silence. Then, the Delium Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a hammer falling on glass. 300 warships, each one a monument to 5,000 years of military engineering. Sleek hulls of grey composite armor. Energy weapons that could vaporize cities. Missile batteries carrying fusion warheads capable of cracking continents. Point defense systems that could track and destroy thousands of incoming projectiles simultaneously. They were beautiful in the way that apex predators are beautiful. Perfect killing machines, honed across millennia of conquest. Fleet Commander Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship, Inevitable Justice, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. Behind him, projected on holographic screens that wrapped around the spherical command center, his fleet held perfect military formation. 3 centuries of experience had taught him that intimidation was half the battle. Show overwhelming force. Make resistance seem futile. Most species surrendered before a shot was fired. Status report. Thane commanded his 4 arms, moving through practiced gestures that controlled multiple systems simultaneously. All ships ready for combat operations. Commander, his tactical officer reported. We are positioned at the edge of the Saturn system. The human mining station has registered our presence. Their primitive warning satellites are already broadcasting distress signals. Thane's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Broadcast on all frequencies. Let the humans hear their fate. The communications officer activated the system, and Thane's voice boomed across space, powerful and absolute. Attention humans of Titan Station. This is Fleet Commander Thane of the Delium Imperial Navy. You have been granted the honor of Protectorate status under Delium authority. Your government has 72 hours to comply with our terms. However, we have decided that an immediate demonstration is necessary. He paused, letting the words sink in. You have 1 standard hour to evacuate this station completely. All personnel, all equipment you can carry. After that, we will reduce these facilities to debris as proof of what happens when primitives waste the Council's time. This is your only warning. The message repeated automatically while Thane settled into his command throne. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They had done this hundreds of times before, with dozens of different species. The pattern was always the same. Initial resistance, a demonstration of overwhelming force. Then complete capitulation. Humans would be no different. "Commander," the sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting movement from the station. Civilian transports are launching." "Evacuating," Thane mused. "At least they show some survival instinct. Weapons maintain target lock on those transports. If they flee, we let them go. Our quarrel is with their military infrastructure, not their refugees." "Sir, I'm also detecting." The sensor officer's voice carried a note of confusion. "Commander, I'm reading 12 contacts emerging from behind Saturn. They match the signatures of the vessels we observed at the Council station." Thane sat forward. "The same 12 ships?" "Yes, Commander. Identical energy signatures. They're moving to intercept our formation." Silence fell over the bridge. Every crew member turned to look at their commander, waiting for orders. But more than that, waiting for an explanation that made sense. 12 ships against 300. "Orders, Commander," the tactical officer asked. Thane's four hands gripped the armrests of his throne. He had fought many species over his 3 centuries of military service, and he had learned to read tactics and strategy like others read simple text. This made no sense. Humanity had shown intelligence at the Council. They had accepted terms rather than face destruction. Why throw away their only military assets in a meaningless gesture unless it was a test? Unless they wanted to see how Delium forces fought, gather tactical data, learn from defeat to prepare for future resistance. That at least made some sense. It was still foolish to what good was tactical data when you lacked the forces to use it, but it suggested a primitive cunning. "Very well," Thane decided. "We will educate them thoroughly. All ships combat Formation Delta. Let us show the humans what Delium warfare looks like. Weapons free. Destroy those vessels." The Delium fleet moved with practiced precision. Energy weapons charged, glowing with barely contained power. Missile tubes loaded their deadly cargo. Point defense systems activated, ready to intercept any counterattack. The human ships came on, not slowing, not wavering. "They're separating," the sensor officer reported, "breaking into 4 groups of 3 vessels each. Commander, they're using chemical thrusters for evasive maneuvers. I can see the exhaust plumes. This is incredibly inefficient." "Because they are primitive," Thane said. "Fire when in range." The distance closed. 100,000 kilometers, 50,000, 20,000. At 15,000 kilometers, the Delium fleet opened fire. Edes Retribution, Commander Cassiel Brennan's flagship. The universe became light and fire. Energy beams lanced through the void, each capable of vaporizing a small moon. Missiles streaked forward their fusion warheads, primed to detonate with the force of small stars. Space itself seemed to tear apart under the onslaught, and Cassiel danced. "Hard starboard," she shouted. Emergency burn full thrust. Her ship twisted and spun chemical thrusters, firing in rapid, chaotic bursts. The movements were desperate, wild, inefficient. Exactly what you'd expect from a primitive species fighting with outdated technology against an overwhelming enemy. They were also completely manual. No computer assistance, no predictive algorithms, just human reflexes, and 3 months of intensive training in how to fly like you were terrified. The first salvo missed more targets than it hit. "What are they doing?" Thane's tactical officer demanded from the bridge of inevitable justice. "No computer could calculate those movements. They're flying manually. That's insane." Thane watched with growing respect. One of the human ships took a glancing blow from an energy beam, its crude shields flaring and failing. Atmosphere vented from a gash in its hull, but the vessel kept moving, kept fighting. Another launched what appeared to be every missile it carried in a single volley, suicidal tactics that sacrificed all future firepower for one overwhelming barrage. "Interesting," Thane murmured. They fight without fear, adjust targeting algorithms, compensate for irregular movement. But inside Retribution, Cassiel wasn't fighting without fear. She was drowning in it. Fear for her crew, fear that the plan wouldn't work, fear that James had died for nothing. But she channeled that fear into action. All ships, she transmitted on the encrypted tactical channel. Remember the mission. We're not trying to win. We're trying to gather data. Make them show us everything, every weapon system, every tactic, every formation. Die if you have to, but die learning. Her sensor officer's voice cracked. Commander, they're adapting. Targeting solutions are improving. We've got maybe another 10 minutes before. Then we use those 10 minutes. Helm put us inside their formation. Navigation calculate a ramming solution for the nearest cruiser. Ramming, ma'am. They need to believe we're desperate. What's more desperate than using our ships as missiles? The battle evolved into a strange, brutal dance. The Delium fleet hammered at the human vessels with overwhelming firepower, and the humans replied with tactics that bordered on madness. They used their own ships as shields for each other. They rammed disabled vessels into Delium attack patterns to disrupt targeting. They fired their weapons until the barrels melted, then used the dying ships as missiles themselves. One human vessel, EDS Defiance, its entire port side torn away, and venting atmosphere somehow managed to get inside the Delium formation. Its captain transmitted one final message. For humanity, remember us. Then it self-destructed, taking 2 Delium frigates with it in a blaze of nuclear fire. Thane stood from his throne, watching the tactical display with something approaching admiration. These humans are warriors, he admitted quietly. Foolish doomed warriors, but warriors nonetheless. But what Thane couldn't see, what his sensors couldn't detect, was that every single human ship was recording everything. Every energy signature, every missile trajectory, every shield frequency, every formation pattern. Data poured into encrypted storage cores protected by precursor quantum encryption that wouldn't break even if the ships were reduced to atoms. Data that was being transmitted in real time via quantum entanglement back to Admiral Theodora Brennan's command center 3 light years away. Commander, Cassiel's tactical officer said, voice steady despite the ship shaking around them. We've confirmed their shield modulation frequencies, energy weapon focal points, missile guidance protocols, formation doctrine for fleet engagements. We've got everything the Admiral wanted. Cassiel nodded, watching another human ship die on her screen. EDS Valiant, 216 souls total across the fleet. Now 198. Make it count, she thought. Make every death count for something. All ships, she transmitted. Primary objective complete. Secondary objective survive long enough to get this data home. Break formation, scatter pattern Omega. Every ship for themselves. Jump to FTL as soon as you're clear. The 12 ships, now 11, now 10, broke and ran. Desperate, fleeing. Exactly what defeated primitives would do. The Delium fleet pursued with ruthless efficiency. One by one, the human ships fell. They fought to the last shot, the last missile, the last breath of their crews. 11 ships became clouds of expanding debris, their crews dying in the cold vacuum of space. Retribution took a direct hit that sheared off its entire aft section. Half the crew died instantly. Cassiel felt the ship screaming around her alarms, wailing systems failing. Engineering, can we jump? FTL drive is intact but barely. One jump, maybe, if we're lucky. Then make it count. Helm calculate jump coordinates, maximum distance, random heading, anywhere but here. Commander, there's something. Another impact. The bridge lights died. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red. Jump now. Reality twisted, folded. The universe became something else for 3 seconds that felt like eternity. Then they were somewhere else. Somewhere dark, somewhere safe, Some were 50 light years from Saturn, drifting in interstellar space with half their ship missing and 18 crew members still alive out of the original 23. Cassiel unbuckled from her command chair and floated through the dying ship to the communications station. Get a message to Earth. Quantum entanglement. Direct to Admiral Brennan. Tell her we got everything. Full tactical data on Delium weapons shields and doctrine. 216 volunteers, 18 survivors, mission accomplished. The comm officer, bleeding from a head wound, but still functional, sent the message. The response came instantly. Well done, Commander. Come home. Your daughter is waiting for you. Your husband died a hero. They all did. And now we're going to make sure their sacrifice meant something. Cassiel closed her eyes, felt the tears come, let them float in the zero gravity like tiny crystals. James was gone. 198 others were gone. But the plan had worked. Titan Station, 1 hour after the battle. Thane's forces arrived at the station to find it completely abandoned, no life signs. The facilities were intact, but empty power systems still running, but no humans anywhere. They ran, Thane said with satisfaction. All of them just ran. Commander, we're detecting the same pattern at all 12 colonies in this sector. Every human outpost has been evacuated. Total silence from all human channels. Something cold settled in Thane's gut. An instinct honed over 3 centuries of warfare. This silence was different. This felt deliberate. Commander, the sensor officer's voice carried an edge of panic. Ship Alpha 7 just disappeared from sensors. Disappeared. Sir, one moment. It was on patrol at grid coordinates 47 Alpha. The next moment, nothing. No distress signal, no explosion, no debris field. It simply stopped existing on our sensors. Before Thane could respond, the communications board lit up with incoming signals. Alpha 12 reporting contact with unknown. The transmission cut off mid-sentence. Beta Squadron requesting backup. We're under static. This is Carrier Infinite Glory. We are taking fire from silence. Thane watched in growing horror as his fleet icons winked out one by one on the tactical display. Not exploding, not fleeing, simply vanishing as if they had never existed. In the span of 10 minutes, he lost 73 ships. 73 warships gone, with no enemy visible, no weapons fire detected, no trace of what was killing them. All ships combat alert, he roared. Maximum sensor sweep. Find whatever is attacking us. The sensor officer's hands moved frantically across his console. Commander, I'm detecting massive gravimetric distortions across all sectors. Energy signatures are... Sir, they are not matching any known technology in the Delium database. What do you mean not matching? I mean these energy readings predate even Vorti archives. This technology is ancient, Commander. Older than the Council itself. Thane's blood ran cold. And then as if someone had thrown a switch, his sensors lit up like the surface of a star. Contacts, hundreds of them, thousands, appearing simultaneously in perfect formation surrounding his entire fleet in a sphere of steel and threat. They had been there all along, hidden by technology that made them invisible to every sensor the Delium Empire possessed. How many? Thane whispered. The sensor officer's voice cracked. 15,472 contacts, Commander. All warships, all reading active weapons and ready status. The bridge fell into absolute silence. 15,000 ships. The Delium Third Battle Fleet numbered 300, and he had already lost 73 vessels in the last 10 minutes. Hail them, Thane ordered quietly. I need to speak with whoever commands this force. The view screen flickered to life. A human woman appeared, wearing a crisp military uniform of deep blue. Her hair was pulled back severely. Her eyes held an expression that Thane recognized immediately, the look of a predator that had just cornered its prey. But there was something else there too, something that looked almost like sadness. Fleet Commander Thane, she said, I am Admiral Theodora Brennan of the Earth Defense Force. I believe we need to have a conversation. The revelation. Thane straightened in his command throne, trying to maintain his dignity despite the situation. Forearms crossed over his chest, voice steady. Where did these ships come from? Our intelligence tracked every vessel Earth constructed for 50 years. Admiral Brennan's smile was sharp and cold. You tracked what we allowed you to track. Tell me, Commander, have you heard of Mars? The fourth planet in your system. A barren rock. Not so barren as it turns out. Brennan leaned forward. 2 centuries ago, before the Council even knew we existed, a human expedition to Mars discovered something extraordinary. Ruins. Ancient ruins are left by a civilization that existed millions of years before any current Council race evolved. Thane felt his hands gripping his throne harder. That's impossible. The archaeological surveys looked where we wanted them to look, Brennan interrupted. The ruins were deep, Commander. Kilometers below the surface in caverns that natural sensors couldn't penetrate. Inside we found data archives, manufacturing templates, technology that makes your energy shields and plasma weapons look like children's toys. She gestured and the view screen split. Alongside her face appeared images, vast underground facilities, strange machines being assembled. Ships unlike anything in the Council databases being constructed in secret. Thane stared. Those vessels looked nothing like the primitive ships his fleet had just destroyed. These were sleek, black, predatory. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. For 2 centuries we prepared, Brennan continued. We built facilities in hollowed-out asteroids. We constructed shipyards on the dark side of our moon where your sensors couldn't detect them. We established bases in the Oort cloud so far from your observation points that you never even looked, and we built a fleet using technology that predates your entire civilization. But why? Thane demanded. Why hide? If you possessed this power, you could have demanded Council membership. You could have. We could have shown our hand too early. Brennan's voice was iron. Commander, humanity learned something important in our history. Never reveal your true strength until you know your enemy's intentions. We needed to discover what kind of galaxy we were dealing with. Would the Council accept us as equals, or would they see us as threats to be eliminated or primitives to be exploited? Thane understood then. The 12 ships at the Council meeting, the humble diplomatic performance, the acceptance of protectorate status, all of it had been theater. The 12 ships, Heath said slowly. They were bait. Purpose-built decoys, Brennan confirmed. Designed specifically to match what we thought galactic civilizations would expect from a newly spacefaring race. Old-fashioned propulsion, kinetic weapons, weak shields, all deliberately engineered to seem primitive. We fed your intelligence networks exactly what we wanted them to see. False construction yards, fake test flights, ships being built in public view while the real fleet was constructed in secret. But the casualties, Thane said. Your people died fighting my fleet, 216 volunteers. For the first time, something like genuine emotion crossed Brennan's face. Her voice softened just slightly. Every single one of them volunteered. They knew they wouldn't survive. They knew their job was to make their sacrifice look desperate enough to convince you that Earth was defeated. Their deaths bought us the intelligence we needed on your tactics, weapons, and shields. She paused. And more importantly, they revealed your true nature. What nature? Predators, Brennan said softly. The Council had a choice, Commander. They could have welcomed Earth as partners. They could have offered genuine cooperation. Instead, they mocked us, threatened us, demanded we submit to slavery disguised as protectorate status, and then sent you to make an example of us. She leaned back. You've shown us exactly what the Galactic Council really is. Not a cooperative alliance, but a hierarchy of bullies maintained by military force. Species like yours have been doing this for thousands of years. Crushing anyone who might challenge your dominance, keeping younger races under your boot, calling it civilization. Thane looked at his tactical display, at the overwhelming force surrounding his fleet, at the ships his sensors still couldn't fully analyze, at technology that shouldn't exist. What now? He asked quietly. Do you destroy us? Make an example as we tried to make of you. That depends. Brennan's voice was measured, calm. We didn't build this fleet to conquer the galaxy, Commander. We built it to ensure that no one could conquer us. But we needed to know who we were dealing with. Now we know. She leaned forward, and her next words carried across space with absolute clarity. You have a choice, Commander Thane. You can surrender your fleet. Your ships will be interned. Your crews will be treated with dignity and according to military law. You will face trial for unprovoked aggression against a sovereign species. Or, she paused, or you can fight. And if you fight, I promise you that not one Delium vessel will leave this system alive. The galaxy will watch as your entire battle fleet is destroyed by the primitives you came here to conquer. Your empire will see 300 warships reduced to debris. And everyone will know that the Delium Third Fleet died because they underestimated humanity. Thane looked at his bridge crew, young officers who trusted him, veterans who had served under him for decades. He thought of the 73 ships already lost, of the families who would mourn them. He thus thought of his own pride, the pride of his empire, and what surrender would mean. Then he thought of those 15,000 ships on his sensors, and the cold mathematical certainty that his fleet could not win. Admiral Brennan, he said slowly, I must consult with my staff. May I have one standard hour? You may, Brennan said. But, Commander, every minute you delay, the rest of the galaxy is watching. Our broadcast is going out on all channels. The Council is seeing this right now. They're seeing their mighty Delium fleet surrounded and outmatched. Every moment you wait, you're showing every species in the galaxy that Earth is not the primitive backwater they thought. The screen went dark. Thane sat in his command throne, surrounded by his shocked and frightened crew, and faced the hardest decision of his 3-century career. 1 hour later, I have decided, Thane announced to his assembled officers. We will surrender. Relief flooded across some faces, shame across others. His tactical officer looked stricken. Sir, the Delium Empire has never surrendered a fleet in 5,000 years of warfare. If we give up without fighting, we will be remembered as cowards. And if we fight, Thane asked quietly. Our sensor officer has run every simulation our computers can generate. We cannot win. They outnumber us 50-1. They have technology we cannot counter. If we engage, our fleet will be destroyed in minutes. Then we die with honor, the tactical officer insisted. No, Thane said. We live with wisdom. He stood, all 4 arms spread wide. I have fought for 3 centuries. I've conquered 17 worlds. I've never lost a battle. And I'm telling you now, these humans are not primitives. They are not victims. They are predators who have been pretending to be prey. And they have just shown us that we were never the apex species we thought we were. He turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to all ships in the fleet. When the confirmation came, he began speaking. Attention all vessels of the 3rd Battle Fleet. This is Fleet Commander Thane. We came here to conquer a species we believed was weak. We were wrong. We were deceived. But we were also arrogant. We assumed our strength gave us the right to dominate. We never questioned whether that right existed. He could see confusion on the faces of his bridge crew. Admiral Brennan has offered us surrender or death. I choose surrender. But not just my surrender, all of us. We will power down weapons and submit to human authority. We will face trial for our crimes, and we will learn from our defeat. But Commander, his second-in-command protested. This is not negotiable, Thane said with finality. Open a channel to Admiral Brennan. The human admiral's face appeared almost immediately. Commander Thane, have you reached a decision? I have. My fleet surrenders unconditionally. We will power down our weapons and submit to your authority. We accept internment and trial. Something flickered in Brennan's eyes. Surprise perhaps, or respect. A wise choice, Commander. However, I'm going to do something that might surprise you. Before we take your surrender, I'm going to make you an offer. An offer? You wanted to see how humans fight. You got a glimpse with those 12 decoy ships, but you still don't understand. You still think this is about overwhelming numbers, about superior technology. You think we won because we have 15,000 ships to your remaining vessels. Brennan smiled. I'm going to teach you something, Commander Thane. Something about what real strength looks like. I'm going to give you a fair fight. Before Thane could ask what she meant, 14,999 of the human ships around his fleet began withdrawing. Their formations opened like a flower blooming in reverse. When the movement stopped, only one human vessel remained in engagement range, a ship roughly the same size as Inevitable Justice. My name is Captain Jennifer Martinez, a new voice said as the view screen switched to show a younger human woman. I command the EDS Unconquered. Commander Thane, you wanted an honorable fight. You've got one. My ship against yours. No interference. No backup. Win and your fleet goes free. No trial. No internment. Admiral Brennan will allow you to return home. Lose and you surrender as offered. Agreed. Thane stared. This was madness. This was mercy. This was respect. This was everything the Council should have offered Earth and hadn't. Agreed, he said. The duel. The two ships faced each other across 3,000 kilometers of empty space, while 15,000 human vessels watched and 227 Delium ships held their breath. Across the galaxy, the Council delegates watched in stunned silence as the battle they thought they understood completely transformed into something else. A duel between warriors bound by rules both sides acknowledged. Weapons free, Captain Martinez said. Begin when ready. Thane brought 3 centuries of experience to bear. He used every tactic he knew, every maneuver his people had perfected over millennia of warfare. Flanking attacks, feints, missile barrages, designed to overwhelm point defenses, while energy weapons struck from unexpected angles. Martinez countered with technology that seemed like magic. Her shields absorbed the energy weapon strikes that should have vaporized them facing the attacks into parallel dimensions. Her weapons cut through Delium armor like it wasn't there, using focused gravity beams that crushed matter at the molecular level. Her ship moved with impossible precision, as if it could predict where his weapons would fire before he gave the orders. But she didn't simply overwhelm him. She matched his tactics, countered his strategies, fought in a way that showed she understood the difference between defeating an enemy and humiliating them. The battle lasted 30 minutes. In that time, Thane damaged Unconquered's port shields, destroyed 2 of her weapons arrays, forced Martinez to execute emergency maneuvers 3 times. He fought better than he had ever fought in his life. It wasn't enough. A final barrage from Unconquered knocked out Inevitable Justice's main power systems. Emergency lights flickered on. The bridge crew worked frantically at dying consoles. All weapons offline, Commander, his tactical officer reported quietly. Shields failed. Power at 15%. We cannot continue. Martinez's face appeared on the emergency screen. Commander Thane, you fought with honor. Will you surrender now? Thane looks at his crew, then at the human captain who had defeated him while still showing respect. I will, Captain Martinez. I formally surrender Inevitable Justice and request internment under the terms offered by Admiral Brennan. Surrender accepted, Commander. Prepare to be boarded. And for what it's worth, Martinez paused. You're the best opponent I've ever faced. Within hours, human boarding teams secured the Delium fleet. They were professional, courteous. They treated prisoners with dignity. Medical teams immediately began helping the wounded. The human marines who took Thane into custody saluted him before escorting him to a holding area. Admiral Brennan met him there personally. Commander Thane, you and your officers will be held for trial on charges of unprovoked aggression. You'll have access to legal counsel. The trial will be broadcast throughout the galaxy. And my crew will be treated according to the conventions of military law. They were following orders. The Delium Empire sent them here. They didn't choose this mission. Thane nodded slowly. You are more merciful than we would have been. We're not doing this out of mercy, Brennan said quietly. We're doing this because we want the galaxy to see that there's an alternative to the Council's way. We want every species to understand that strength doesn't have to mean domination. She turned to leave, then paused. Commander, I reviewed the footage of your battle with Captain Martinez. You fought brilliantly. In another circumstance, with the different choices made centuries ago, we might have been allies instead of enemies. In another circumstance, Thane agreed. Perhaps we would have been. As Brennan left, Thane sat in his cell and activated the public news feeds. Across the galaxy, he watched the reactions pour in. The council was in chaos. The worthy were demanding emergency sessions. The Klesh were recalculating probabilities. And dozens of smaller species that had been subjugated, exploited, or ignored by the council were watching Earth with new interest, new hope. The galaxy had changed in the span of a single day, and Commander Thane, sitting in a human prison cell, realized he had just witnessed history. The moment when the old order died, when the balance of power shifted, when a species the council had dismissed as primitive revealed they had been playing a different game entirely, a game they had been planning for 2 centuries, a game they just won. He thought about Admiral Brennan, about her sad eyes when she mentioned the volunteers who had died, about the patience required to maintain a deception for centuries, about the wisdom to show mercy when vengeance would have been easier. And he thought, perhaps we deserved this defeat. Perhaps we needed it. On his screen, he watched Admiral Brennan preparing to address the Galactic Council, and he listened as she prepared to explain to 47 civilizations that the rules had just changed. Forever. The Galactic Council chamber. Emergency session. The emergency session had been in progress for 6 hours, and High Counselor Vexthar's crystalline form flickered through colors so rapidly it hurt to look at. Red for anger, blue for fear, orange for disgust, cycling endlessly as he struggled to process what every delegate was seeing on their displays. This is impossible. The Kalesh overmind insisted its 1,000 voices speaking in perfect unsettling synchronization. Our intelligence networks are flawless. We monitored Earth for 50 standard years. We tracked every satellite, every test flight, every construction facility. There is no way they could have hidden 15,000 warships. And yet they did, Admiral Krell said quietly. The massive Delium stood to one side of the chamber, his forearms hanging limply at his sides. His nephew Fleet Commander Thane was currently imprisoned by humans. The shame of it had shaken the entire Delium military hierarchy to its foundation. The footage played again on the chamber's main display. Human ships, sleek black predatory, surrounding the 3rd Battle Fleet, the one-on-one duel between Thane and Captain Martinez, the professional, almost gentle manner in which human marines had taken prisoners. And most disturbing of all, Admiral Brennan's recorded speech explaining how Earth had hidden its true capabilities for 2 centuries. We need to respond, insisted Councillor Trevmar of the Bendari Confederacy, his scales rippling with agitation. We cannot allow this challenge to Council authority to stand. If Earth gets away with this deception, every protectorate and client species will start questioning our oversight. What do you suggest? Vexthar asked, his voice resonating with barely controlled panic. Send another fleet. The humans just defeated 300 Delium warships with minimal losses. They have 15,000 ships we know about. How many more might they have hidden? Then we send everything, Trevmar argued. The combined council fleets number over 30,000 warships. We will overwhelm them with pure numbers. Admiral Krell shook his great head. You're not thinking clearly. The humans didn't just defeat us. They were toying with us. Their technology is superior. Those ancient ruins they found on Mars. He paused, accessing the archaeological databases. There are legends of a precursor civilization that vanished millions of years ago, species that could shape space-time itself. If the humans have access to even a fraction of that technology, he didn't need to finish. The implications hung in the chamber like a death sentence. We need more intelligence, the Klesh Overmind stated. We need to know the full extent of Earth's military capability before the Overmind stopped speaking mid-sentence. Every delegate turned to look at it. The swarm of interconnected beings had gone completely still, which for the Klesh was like watching a river suddenly freeze. Overmind, Vexeter asked carefully. What's wrong? Our long-range sensors, the Overmind said slowly, its unified voice carrying a note of horror that sent chills through every delegate present. We're detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. Dozens of them, hundreds. They're powering up. Ships, bases, weapons platforms. They've been hidden dormant and now they're coming online. How many? Vexter demanded. The sensor data flowed onto the chamber's displays. The delegates watched in growing disbelief as contact after contact appeared. Ships emerging from the old cloud like ghosts materializing from fog. Hidden bases in asteroid fields revealing themselves. Massive construction yards that had been invisible to every scan activating their power cores. Estimated count, the Overmind said quietly, is over 118,000 warships, and that's just the first wave of contacts. More are appearing every minute. The chamber fell into absolute silence. 118,000 ships. The entire Galactic Council's combined military might accumulated across thousands of years by dozens of species totaled 32,000 vessels. Earth had hidden more than 3 times that number and had built them in secret over just 2 centuries. This changes everything, Vexetar whispered. Before anyone could respond, every communication screen in the chamber activated simultaneously. Ambassador Lyanna Frost appeared, but she was no longer wearing the simple diplomatic attire from her last visit. Now she wore a military uniform, similar to Admiral Brennan's, and her expression held none of the diplomatic neutrality from before. Greetings, esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Frost said, her voice cold and formal. I apologize for interrupting your deliberations, but we thought you should know something important. She paused for effect. The fleet you've been watching, the 15,000 ships that defeated the Delium 3rd Battle Fleet, that wasn't our military. That was our first defense fleet designed specifically to protect our home system. She gestured, and the display split to show streaming footage from dozens of locations. Ships massive beyond comprehension, moving through space. Mobile shipyards the size of moons. Weapons platforms that looked capable of cracking planets. What you're seeing now is our actual military capability, Frost continued. 118,000 warships across 7 full fleets. 43 mobile shipyards capable of constructing new vessels anywhere in the galaxy. 16 planet-class defense stations. And several dozen experimental vessels that use technology even we don't fully understand yet. Vexter's crystalline form turned a sickly grey color. You're attempting to intimidate us. This is a bluff. Is it? Frost's smile was razor sharp. Your sensors are tracking every contact I'm describing right now, Counselor. This isn't a holographic projection or a tactical simulation. These ships are real. They exist. They are armed, and they are currently moving into formation around Council territory. She leaned forward. But we're not here to conquer you. We're here to deliver a message, and you're going to listen to it very carefully. Another figure appeared beside Frost on the screen. A being that looked vaguely reptilian, with scales that shifted through multiple colors. Iridescent, beautiful alien. Then, another appeared, an insectoid creature. Nothing like the Klesh, with compound eyes that seemed to hold ancient intelligence. Then a fourth something that appeared to be made of liquid metal, its form constantly flowing and reforming. Allow me to introduce our allies, Frost said. Species that the Council rejected, exploited or ignored. Species that you deemed too primitive, too different, or too troublesome to be worth your attention. The reptilian being spoke, its voice translated into standard galactic. I am Coordinator Silas of the Saurian Collective. The Council denied us membership 300 years ago because our technology didn't meet your arbitrary standards. Earth gave us access to the precursor archives. Now our ships fight alongside theirs. 2,000 vessels strong. The insectoid spoke next, its voice like wind through crystal caves. I am Hive Queen Zara. The council classified my species as non-sentient because our communication methods confused your analysts. Earth recognized our intelligence and treated us as equals. We owe them a debt that can never be repaid. 800 ships stand ready, the liquid metal being flowed into a vaguely humanoid shape. I am Unity Prime. My people were enslaved by the Delium Empire for 2 centuries. Earth helped us escape and gave us sanctuary. We stand with them against any threat. 1,200 vessels. Frost looked directly into the camera, her eyes hard as diamonds. The galaxy has a choice to make, Council. You can continue operating as you have a hierarchy maintained by military force where ancient species dominate and emerging races are exploited or destroyed, where strength equals the right to rule and weakness equals the obligation to serve. She paused. Or you can accept that things have changed. What are you proposing? Admiral Krell asked quietly, his voice heavy with the weight of defeat. A new council, Frost said. One based on equality, not age. One that protects emerging species instead of subjugating them. One that operates by consensus rather than threat. Earth and our allies are willing to share the precursor technology. We've developed defensive systems, medical advances, propulsion upgrades with any species that joins this new coalition. Her expression hardened. But let me be absolutely clear. We will not be denied, dismissed, or dominated. If the current council structure refuses to change, we will create our own, and every species that has suffered under your rule will have the option to join us. How many of your protectorates do you think will choose to stay with you when they see an alternative? Vexthar's crystalline form pulsed with chaotic colors. You're threatening to split the galaxy. We're offering to unite it, Frost corrected, but on terms that are fair to everyone, not just the oldest civilizations. The precursor species that left those ruins on Mars, they fell because they became complacent. They assumed their strength would last forever. They stopped innovating, stopped questioning, stopped growing. They died out while younger species evolved around them. She leaned closer to the camera. Don't make the same mistake. And if we refuse, Trevmar demanded, if we choose to fight, Frost's expression didn't change, but something cold entered her voice. Then you'll discover that 118,000 warships is just what we've revealed so far. You'll learn that humanity spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. You'll understand why every species that joins our alliance does so willingly, not under threat of force. She paused, letting the words sink in. And you'll realize too late that you had a chance to be partners and chose to be enemies instead. The screen went dark. The council chamber erupted into chaos. 6 months later, Earth, Pacific Command bunker. Admiral Theodora Brennan stood in front of the massive memorial wall, 2 centuries of patience etched into her face. The wall was black granite, polished to mirror brightness, and on it were engraved 3,200 names. The victims of Titan Station, and among them, James Reeves, husband, father, chemical engineer, age 34. I'm sorry, Brennan said quietly to the wall, to the names to the ghosts that haunted her. I'm sorry I used you. I'm sorry I made you into martyrs. I'm sorry your families will carry that grief forever. She touched James's name gently, but I'd do it again. God help me, I'd make the same choice. Because 3,200 died so 8 billion could live free. Footsteps echoed behind her. She didn't turn. Admiral, a familiar voice said, Commander Cassiel Brennan, her granddaughter, alive against all odds. 18 survivors from the sacrifice fleet. 18 out of 216. How's your daughter? Brennan asked. Emma's doing well. She asks about her father. I tell her he died protecting humanity, that he was a hero. He was. Was it worth it, grandmother? Cassiel's voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it. 216 people, 3,200 civilians. Was it worth the cost? Brennan finally turned, looked at her granddaughter, scarred, traumatized, but alive. Ask me that question in 100 years. Ask me after we've stopped 36 conflicts. After we've protected species that can't protect themselves. After we've shown the galaxy that there's an alternative to rule by force. She gestured at the memorial wall. These people died so that we could have the moral authority to say no more. So that we could stand in front of the council and prove that we're not conquerors. Not because we can't conquer, we've proven we could, but because we choose not to. Philosophy, Cassiel said. Easy to preach, harder to live. Which is why we have to live it every day. Brennan turned back to the wall. Every time we choose mercy over vengeance. Every time we help instead of harm. Every time we walk away from a fight we could win. That's when these names mean something. That's when their deaths become more than just casualties. They become the foundation of something better. Cassiel was quiet for a long moment. Then, the council wants to meet. Formal negotiation. They're calling it the New Galactic Accords. Let them wait, Brennan said. We respond on our timeline now, not theirs. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them realize that we don't need their approval or their blessing. Admiral Krell has requested to speak with you personally about his nephew. Brennan nodded. Commander Thane, how is he? Adjusting to captivity. The trial is in 3 weeks. He's different, quiet, thoughtful. He's been teaching our tactical officers Delium combat doctrine. Says he wants to pay his debt to humanity for showing him what honor actually means. He's learning, Brennan said. That's good. We'll need allies like him. Former enemies who understand why we fight the way we do. She started walking toward the exit, Cassiel, falling into step beside her. The galaxy is watching us now. Every move we make. Every decision. We're not primitive humans anymore. We're not the dismissed, mocked species that arrived at the council chamber with 12 ships and humble apologies. They reached the elevator and Brennan pressed the button for the surface. We're something new, something the galaxy hasn't seen before. A species strong enough to dominate, but choosing to protect instead. And that choice, that constant daily exhausting choice, is what separates us from the council we're replacing. The elevator doors opened. Sunlight streamed in, bright and warm. Come on, Brennan said. We have work to do. 1 year later, Galactic Council Chamber, the new Accords. The chamber looked different now. The walls still shifted colors with the dominant emotion in the room, but the seating had been rearranged. Instead of the old hierarchical structure, with the eldest civilizations at the center and younger species relegated to the outer rings, the chamber now held a circular table, equals sitting together. 47 old council members occupied one half of the table. 18 new species, Earth's allies, occupied the other half. And at the head of the table, neither in the old position of authority nor the new position of revolution, sat two figures, High Counselor Vexthar of the Vorthi and Admiral Theodora Brennan of Earth. Let us begin, Vexthar said, his crystalline form a steady neutral white. The New Galactic Accords. Article 1. No species may subjugate, exploit or demand tribute from another species. All partnerships must be voluntary and mutually beneficial. Agreed, Brennan said. Around the table, 47 old council members and 18 new allies signaled their agreement. Some enthusiastically, some reluctantly, but all of them agreed, because they had seen the alternative. Article 2, Vexthar continued. Military force may only be used in defense of sovereign territory or in response to direct aggression. Preventive war is prohibited. Agreed, Brennan said again. Article 3. All species have the right to develop their own technology and defend their own space. No species may impose technological limitations on another. This one caused murmurs. Several old council members shifted uncomfortably. This article directly contradicted millennia of policy. But Admiral Krell stood all four arms spread wide. The Delium Empire agrees, we have learned, the hard way, that attempting to control other species' development only breeds resentment and eventual conflict. If Earth had been allowed to develop openly, perhaps we would have met as allies instead of enemies. The murmurs quieted. When the Delium Empire agreed, everyone else fell in line. Article 4, Vexthar said, and now his colors shifted toward blue unease. This was the controversial one, the one that would reshape galactic politics forever. The formation of the Protectorate Force, a military organization composed of a volunteer species dedicated to defending those who cannot defend themselves, led by Earth, operating independently of Council authority, answerable only to its own charter. Silence. This was the price of peace. Earth's condition, the one thing they refused to negotiate. Autonomy, independence, the right to act as guardians without asking permission. The Council cannot allow an independent military force to... Trevmar began. The Council doesn't have a choice. Brennan interrupted, her voice cold. Article 4 is non-negotiable. We've proven we don't need your permission. We're offering cooperation instead of conflict. But we will not submit to Council oversight. We will not let our defensive fleet be neutered by committee votes and political maneuvering. She stood, and every eye in the chamber turned to her. For 10,000 years, the Council has maintained order through threat, through domination, through the implicit promise that if you step out of line, someone will come to crush you. That's not order. That's oppression wearing a diplomatic mask. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Earth offers something different. A force that protects without demanding payment. That defends without seeking to control. That stands between the weak and the strong, not to claim the weak for ourselves, but to ensure they have the chance to grow strong on their own terms. Vexither's colors flickered. And if your protectorate force becomes corrupt, if Earth decides to use this independent military for conquest, then you'll have the moral authority to stop us, Brennan said simply. And you'll have the proof that we're no different than you were. But until that day, you'll give us the chance to prove that a species can be strong without being cruel, powerful without being exploitative, capable of violence but choosing restraint. She looked around the table. That's the test, not whether we can build weapons. We've proven we can. Not whether we can win wars. We've proven that too. The real test is whether we can have power and choose not to abuse it. Every single day. For how long? Tasamantawan asked. How long will Earth maintain this restraint? Forever, Brennan said. Or until we fail. Whichever comes first. And if we fail, if we become the monsters we fought against, then I hope someone has the strength to stop us the way we stopped you. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Admiral Krell stood. The Delium Empire seconds Article 4. We have seen what Earth is capable of. We have also seen their mercy. Let them be guardians. The galaxy needs them. One by one other delegates stood, some reluctantly, some with genuine relief, some because they had no choice. But they all stood. Article 4 is ratified, Vexter said quietly. The Protectorate Force is recognized. Brennan nodded. Then we have an accord. 10 years later, Edes Unconquered, Deep Space Patrol. Captain Jennifer Martinez stood on the bridge of her ship, now the flagship of the Protectorate Force's Second Fleet. 42 years old, veteran of 6 major conflicts. Hero of the Battle of Saturn, and teacher to a new generation of officers who had grown up in a galaxy that Earth had changed. Captain, her sensor officer called out, detecting a distress signal. Unknown origin, 17 light years out. What kind of distress? Military. Someone's under attack. Heavy weapons fire detected. Mass signatures suggest. The officer paused. Ma'am, those are worthy attack patterns. But the defending ships don't match any known signatures in our database. Martinez felt that old familiar tension settle into her shoulders. Another conflict. Another species in trouble. Another chance to prove what the Protectorate Force stood for. All ships condition yellow. Plot intercept course. Send a message to Pacific Command. Tell Admiral Brennan we have a situation. Captain, should we wait for reinforcements? Martinez smiled. It was the same smile her mentor Admiral Brennan wore when she was about to do something the Council wouldn't approve of. We're the Protectorate Force. We don't wait for permission to do what's right. Take us in. Unconquered and her battle group jumped to FTL, Earth, Pacific Command bunker. Admiral Theodora Brennan was 268 years old. Still looked 58, still carried the weight of every decision she'd made since that day in the Mars caverns, when Elias Moravec had asked her to make a promise. "Admiral," her aide said, "Captain Martinez has engaged unknown hostiles, worthy aggressor vessels attacking an unidentified species. Martinez is moving to intercept." Brennan pulled up the tactical display, watched the icons move, watched another battle begin, another conflict where Earth would stand between the strong and the weak. "How's it going?" she asked. "Martinez is outnumbered 3-1, but she's got support from a Delium squadron. War Marshal Thane is personally leading them." Brennan smiled. Thane, the enemy who had become an ally, the student who had become a teacher. Living proof that people could change, that enemies could become friends, that the cycle of violence could be broken. If you had the patience, if you had the wisdom, if you had the strength to choose mercy when vengeance would be easier. "Send reinforcements," Brennan ordered. "Full battle group, and tell them no civilian casualties. We capture the worthy ships if we can. We give them the same choice we gave the Delium. Surrender and face justice or die." "Yes, Admiral." Brennan stood walking to the observation window that looked out over the Pacific Ocean. 3 kilometers above her, waves crashed against the shore. The sun set in colors that would have made Moravec smile. 268 years, she thought, and I'm still keeping the promise. Her comm chimed, "Private channel." She activated it, and War Marshal Thane's face appeared now older, scarred from a decade of fighting alongside humans, but with eyes that held wisdom he'd lacked before. "Admiral Brennan," he said, "we're engaging worthy aggressors. 6 heavy cruisers attacking a colony of the Meridian species. Small, peaceful, no significant military. Classic council tactics from the old days." "I see it," Brennan said. "Martinez is on her way. Reinforcements 5 minutes behind her." "We don't need reinforcements," Thane said, and there was pride in his voice. "Humans taught us well. We're Protectorate force now. We know how to fight like guardians instead of conquerors." "Be careful anyway," Brennan said. And Thane, "Thank you for learning, for teaching others, for proving that change is possible." Thane nodded. "You gave me mercy when I deserved execution. You treated my people with dignity when we had shown you none. How could I not learn from that?" The comm went dark. Brennan stood alone in the command center watching tactical displays showing conflicts across 3 sectors. The Protectorate force, now numbering 43,000 ships from 12 species responding to threats, defending the defenseless, standing between bullies and victims, doing what the Council had failed to do for 10,000 years. Her comm chimed again. This time the face that appeared was younger, much younger. Lieutenant Emma Reeves, age 18, Cassiel's daughter, James's daughter, 4th generation of the Brennan family to serve. "Admiral," Emma said, "request permission to speak freely." "Granted." "Why do we do this? The Council isn't paying us. The species we protect can't repay us. We risk our lives for strangers who will never thank us." "Why?" Brennan smiled. It was the same question Cassiel had asked, the same question every generation asked when they first saw the cost of being guardians. "Come to the memorial wall," Brennan said. "I'll show you." The memorial wall. 1 hour later, Emma stood in front of the black granite reading names. 3,200 of them, including her father's. "James Reeves," she said quietly. "My dad. He died before I was born. Mom says he was a hero, that he gave his life so Earth could be free." "He did," Brennan confirmed. "Was it worth it? Was his death worth all of this?" Emma gestured around at the command center at the displays, showing Protectorate Force ships fighting across the galaxy. Brennan was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Your father died so that humanity would have the moral authority to say no more, so that we could stand in front of bullies and prove we're not like them, so that we could build weapons of genocide and then choose not to use them, so that we could be strong enough to protect everyone, not just ourselves." She turned to face Emma. "Was it worth it? I don't know. Ask me in another 100 years. Ask me after we've saved 1,000 species. Ask me after we've created a galaxy where strength means protection instead of domination." "But you think it was?" "I think your father believed it was. I think 216 people volunteered knowing they'd die because they understood that some things are worth dying for. Freedom, dignity, the right to exist without bowing to anyone. Brennan touched James's name on the wall. Your father loved you, Emma, loved your mother, loved humanity, loved the idea that we could be better than the galaxy expected. That love made him volunteer, made him sacrifice, made him a hero. Emma was crying now. I just wish I could have met him. You carry his legacy, Brennan said gently. Every time you put on that uniform, every time you stand between the weak and the strong, every time you choose to protect instead of conquer. That's your father. That's all of them. She gestured at the wall. 3,200 names. 3,200 people who died so 8 billion could live free. So the galaxy could see that there's an alternative to 10,000 years of oppression. So that species like the Meridians, the ones Martinez and Thane are defending right now, could grow strong without being crushed first. How long do we keep doing this? Emma asked. How long do we have to be guardians? Forever, Brennan said simply, or until someone better comes along. Until then, it's our responsibility, our duty, our choice. That's a long time. Yes, it is. Brennan smiled. But you know what? We're good at patience. We spent 2 centuries lying to the entire galaxy. We can spend the next 1,000 years protecting it. Compared to maintaining that deception, this is almost easy. Emma wiped her tears and straightened. Then I'd better get to the academy. Training starts at 0600. Dismissed, Lieutenant. Emma saluted and left. Brennan stayed alone with the memorial wall and the ghosts of 3,200 people who had died to make her a promise possible. We're keeping it, she said quietly to the names. To James. To all of them. Every day we're keeping it. The galaxy is changing. Slowly. But it's changing. Former enemies are now allies. Species that were oppressed are now free. And Earth stands guard. Not as conquerors, not as exploiters, but as guardians. She touched the wall one last time. Thank you for making it possible. Thank you for believing. Thank you for the sacrifice. Then she turned and walked back to the command center where tactical displays showed 43,000 ships protecting a galaxy that was still learning what peace looked like. Deep space. The Battle of Meridian. Captain Martinez watched as the worthy cruisers tried to flee. War Marshal Thane's squadron had disabled 4 of them. Martinez's ships had captured the other 2. 0 civilian casualties. 18 worthy taken prisoner. The Meridian colony was safe. Captain, her communications officer said, the Meridian are broadcasting a message, audio only. Put it through. A voice came through translated into standard galactic. High-pitched, almost musical, definitely afraid. This is Meridian Colony 7. Thank you. We have no way to repay you. No resources, no technology, nothing to offer. Martinez smiled. You don't need to offer anything. We're the Protectorate Force. We don't require payment. We protect because someone has to, because it's right, because the strong have a responsibility to defend the weak. A pause. Then, why help us? We're not part of your alliance. We've never contacted you. We didn't ask for help. You don't have to ask, Martinez said. That's the point. When someone's in danger, you don't require them to fill out forms and promise favors. You just help, because that's what guardians do. Another pause. Longer this time. Are all humans like you? Martinez thought about Admiral Brennan, about the sacrifice fleet, about 2 centuries of patience, about the choice to show mercy when vengeance would be easier, about 10 years of protecting species across the galaxy without asking for anything in return. We try to be, she said. We don't always succeed, but we try, every day, because 268 years ago, an old man made a young woman promise to build a force strong enough to protect everyone. And she's been keeping that promise ever since. What was the old man's name? Dr. Elias Moravec. And the young woman is Admiral Theodora Brennan. She's still alive, still leading, still keeping the promise. We would like to meet her someday to thank her. She'd tell you the same thing I'm telling you, Martinez said. You don't need to thank us. Just survive. Just grow. Just become strong enough that someday, maybe you'll be the ones protecting someone else. That's how this works. That's how we change the galaxy. One protected species at a time. One act of mercy at a time. One choice at a time. The calm went silent for a moment. Then, we will remember this. The Meridian will remember that Earth came when we called. That the Protectorate Force asked for nothing in return. That guardians exist. That's all we ask, Martinez said. Remember. And when you're strong enough, pay it forward. She closed the channel and looked at her bridge crew, humans, Delium Sorian, even one worthy officer who had defected from the old Council forces because she wanted to be part of something better. All ships, Martinez ordered, return to patrol routes, mission accomplished, and someone send a message to Admiral Brennan. Tell her the Meridian are safe. Tell her we did it without casualties. Tell her. She paused, thinking about the memorial wall back on Earth. About 3,200 names. About the cost of being guardians. Tell her we're keeping the promise. Earth, the memorial wall. Sunset. Admiral Theodora Brennan stood alone in the fading light, 268 years old, and still carrying the weight of promises made to dying men. Her calm chimed. The message from Captain Martinez. Mission successful. 0 casualties. Meridian colony saved. Another species protected. Another day where Earth proved that strength and mercy could coexist. She smiled. We're doing it, Elias, she thought. We're being guardians. We're showing the galaxy that there's another way. That power doesn't have to corrupt. That strength can be used to protect instead of dominate. It's not easy. Every day we make the choice. Every day we turn away from vengeance and toward justice. Every day we stand between the weak and the strong, knowing we could be the strong ones crushing everyone else. But we don't. Because you made me promise. Because 3,200 people died to give us the moral authority. Because the galaxy is watching and we have to prove we're different. The sun set behind her, painting the memorial wall in shades of gold and red. 3,200 names. 3,200 sacrifices. 3,200 reasons to keep being better. We're keeping the promise, Brennan said quietly to the wall, to the names, to the ghosts. Every day, every choice, every act of mercy, we're keeping it. She stood there until the sun disappeared completely and the stars came out. Stars that humanity had once looked at with wonder, wondering if they were alone. Stars that the Council had used to judge Earth as primitive, weak, unworthy. Stars that now watched as Earth, patient, strong, merciful, stood guard over a galaxy that was slowly learning what civilization really meant. Not age, not technology, not power, but choice. The choice to be guardians instead of conquerors. To protect instead of exploit. To show mercy instead of seeking vengeance. That choice, that simple, daily, exhausting choice, was what separated civilization from chaos, guardians from tyrants, the future from the past, and Admiral Theodora Brennan, 268 years old and looking 58, had been making that choice every single day since she was 28 years old and held a dying archaeologist in her arms. She would keep making it until the day she died. Because that was the promise. That was what 2 centuries of patience had built. That was what humanity had become. Not the strongest species in the galaxy, not the oldest, not the wisest, but the ones who chose to be guardians when they could have been gods. And that choice would echo across the stars for generations to come. Somewhere in deep space, a new distress signal. The call went out across quantum channels. Another species in trouble. Another conflict. Another chance for the Protectorate Force to prove what it stood for. And across 7 fleets spanning 118,000 ships, volunteers prepared to answer that call. Humans, Delium, Sorian, Vorthi who had defected, Meridian who had grown strong enough to help others, Dozens of species united not by fear or force, but by the shared belief that the strong had a responsibility to protect the weak. They jumped to Ethel, moving toward danger, choosing to stand between the threatened and the threat. Because that was what guardians did. Because someone had to. Because 268 years ago, a dying man made a promise to a young woman, and she had been keeping it ever since. And she would keep it forever, or until someone better came along. Whichever came first.